Hey, listen. So about 3 months ago, before Tears of the Kingdom came out, I actually made a video talking about who I thought the 8th heroine was. But I wanted to touch base with it since it's been about 3 months, and since we have a little bit more information now on who the 8th heroine is. Spoiler alert. If you haven't finished the game yet, maybe don't watch this. Or if you have finished it and haven't finished the 7 heroine side quests and you still want to keep that a secret for yourself until you complete it, maybe don't watch this either. But moving on. So in the first video, I actually argued that I thought the 8th heroine might be none other than Her Majesty Queen Sonia. But of course at the time I didn't know who Queen Sonia was. This was before the game came out. All I had to go off was the trailers and the similarities between her and Zelda. Thinking that she was the 8th heroine as like a 8th sage outside of the what we usually have as the 7 sages, and that Zelda was part of the 7 sages amongst others as well. Hey, your sister isn't bothering me. Quit jingling. Anyways, I thought there would be 7 sages, Zelda was part of the 7, and the 8th heroine was, at the time, this mysterious figure, who we now know as Queen Sonia. But, was I right? Well, let's see what Tears of the Kingdom had to say about it. So in Tears of the Kingdom, you can actually access the side quest for the 7 heroines pretty quickly once you get to Gerudo Town. All you have to do is go down to the shelter, and once you're in, you can talk to Ratana. Ratana's actually the one that helped us in the side quest for the 7 heroines in Breath of the Wild. When you speak to her, she'll actually talk about some of these monuments that are scattered throughout the shelter in Gerudo Town. She's missing 4 of the 6 monuments that are said to be, so she asks you for help in finding them and asks if you could bring back a picture or some kind of representation to show them to her. Once you show her the 4 pictures of the monuments that remain, then it moves on to the second part of the side quest. Once you get into this portion of the side quest, you actually start looking for these 7 orbs that are scattered throughout the Gerudo region. They're actually identical to the 7 orbs that we put in place in front of the 7 heroine statue in Breath of the Wild to unlock the shrine. However, this time, we're putting all 7 of the orbs in the hands of the 7 smaller statues that are actually in the shelter. Side note, I think it's really funny how they help us find them. If you go talk to Patricia, Rejuice Sandsil, and you give her a splash fruit, the Gerudo woman that's with her actually tells you of her prophetic numbers that Patricia is like shouting out, and they sound like just a bunch of random numbers. They're actually coordinates to find all of the orbs that's laying around the Gerudo region, each showing your X, Y, and Z axis. Really like how they did that. But once we place all 7 of the orbs in the correct hands of the small statues in the structure, a pathway opens up in the middle of them where is revealed a larger orb, which is actually a key to getting into a monument for the 8th heroine. So me, being so involved in this at this point, is super excited because I'm about to get confirmed whether or not I was right. Was it Queen Sonia? Was this the 7 sages? Who is this? Well, once we unlock the door, go through the tunnel, and finally reach the monument, we can actually read this text on a tablet, which states, "Long ago, a monstrosity of the sands attacked Gerudo Town. Its war cry rang out over the dunes like a raging demon. We 7 heroines of the Gerudo, the most stalwart, chosen Vey, surged forth to engage it. Yet this monstrosity tossed us about like the tumbling weeds. We feared that the proud Gerudo would be extinguished. And then, a hero appeared from afar. He marshaled the 7 heroines, counseling us to combine our strengths. The strength upon strength of we 7 routed the monstrosity. We named our benefactor the guiding light of Gerudo. Yet though we had naught but the highest praise for him, he was refused entry into Gerudo Town. 'Twas Gerudo law that all those like him were barred. How hollow our gratitude and praise must have rung in this hero's ears. Thus was the link between his people and the Gerudo severed, though we never bequeathed it to him. The gift into which our feelings are bound is enshrined at this sanctuary." So it looks like who I thought was the 7 sages were literally just 7 Gerudo women. I mean, saying, we 7 heroines of the Gerudo, the most stalwart, chosen Vey, which is obviously women in Gerudo, surged forth to engage it. So it looks like it was 7 women, and the 8th heroine is just a guy. And the only reason that he wasn't represented with the other 7 is literally because he's just a guy. And it seems like he was actually the one that helped them win. Like they said that he marshaled them to use their might together to beat the monster, but because he was a man, he was kind of outcasted. At least I'm assuming so, because it says, "Yet though we had not but the highest praise for him, he was refused entry into Gerudo Town." And why are people not allowed into Gerudo Town? because they're men. Which is very interesting because they actually had a name for him, the Guiding Light of the Gerudo. I mean, dude got enough praise that they gave him like this name as like some kind of thing to go down in legend, and then they're like, nah, you can't come in because you're a man. So yeah, the 7 heroines seem to just have been 7 Gerudo women who were great warriors and the best of the warriors of the Gerudo people at the time. And the 8th was just a guy who helped them kind of get their stuff together so they could go beat this monster. But because he was a man, he wasn't allowed in the city, which is very interesting that they even made a monument for him. If they didn't allow him in the city, maybe after they didn't allow him in and his ties with them got severed, maybe they then realized, hey, we really should have like praised this guy more and built a monument for him afterwards. But hold on, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this is the end, right? This is where it all stops. But not yet. I have something else I want to say. I do believe that the 7 heroines are the 7 Gerudo women and the 8th is the man. I think that's probably the overall truth of the entire thing. But I got really interested in a site that we visited in the last video that I hadn't visited yet in Tears of the Kingdom. So I went to where the original 7 heroine statues were. The big ones, you know, where we originally put the orbs? Yeah, they're mostly buried by sand. But there's enough sand left off of one that you can actually see that it says still, in Gerudo script, the 7 sages. And I also went and checked the 8th heroine, and it still says in reverse, the 7 sages. So it makes me wonder, are there 2 sets of 7 heroines with an 8th heroine? The first being the Gerudo and the 8th being the man, and then the second where it's the 7 sages and the 8th being Zelda, since we've played Tears of the Kingdom now, and she's the one that kind of traverses time. But regardless of whether it would be Sonia or Zelda or any other sages from a different time, why do these 7 statues say the 7 sages? I went and looked at the small statues down in the shelter. They don't say anything on them. And in the location with the stone tablet speaking about the 8th heroine that we just read, I looked at all of the 7 heroines surrounding the 8th, and there's nothing written on them either, just some designs. Yet the big one still has the 7 sages on it. Maybe they just left it in for the sake of keeping it same between Breath of the Wild and this point. Or maybe those 8 statues were built much later in time as a bigger representation of the stories passed down, and people thought that they could have been sages and put the 7 sages on there. I don't guess we'll ever know. Unless we get a third game, and then maybe they'll tell us, yeah, there's actually 2 separate sets of 7 heroines, with an 8th mysterious one that's separated for some reason. But more than likely, the 7 sages part was just left for consistency's sake, and it's just the 7 Gerudo women, and the guy is the 8th. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you think there's 2 separate sets of 7 heroines with an 8th one that's kind of excluded for some reason? Or do you think that it's just the one set represented in numerous places? Which drives me crazy, because if the big ones say the 7 sages, why would they not be related to the 7 sages? But I mean, it is what it is. And obviously things probably changed between one game to the other that they really didn't anticipate. But if you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe for more content. And thank you guys for checking out this one. See ya in the next one.